everybody, I'm back. Jeb couldn't be here with us today. He's out scrounging through a dumpster for tin cans or whatever he does for fun. I told him when he had to review the newest Thy Art Is Murder album, Dear Desolation, he ran away screaming and told me some very, very impolite things. So, I don't know if Jeb's going to be doing another review. I feel like he probably will be in the near future, so keep your eye out for that. If I'm not here, if I can't get to it, he's going to be doing reviews for me still. But I guess this leaves us at the end of a relatively short road. Dear Desolation is the 2017 album by deathcore band Thy Art Is Murder. We've been talking about their albums. I wanted to listen to each of their albums because I've heard a lot of good things about them. And other than the fact that I really found myself engaged with their first album, Holy War didn't do much for me, and it didn't for Jeb either. He hated it more than I did, actually, but I thought that one was incredibly mediocre and very by the numbers, and didn't have the same interesting groove and rhythm that their first album did. He just hated it. Like a child hates broccoli, Jeb just hated the second Thy Art Is Murder album. This one, I was actually kind of interested in, because I really enjoy, I usually talk about the cover last, but I want to touch on it just briefly here. I think that's a really good album cover. The wolf, the sheep suckling the wolf like it would its mother. I think that's a great visual metaphor rather, for basically, you know, trusting something to raise you that you really shouldn't, or like trusting something in power, like the government or something to that effect. I think that is a great cover art, but that's about as far as I can go with this. Again, just to recap, their first album, Hate, ironically, I loved. Their second one, Holy War, I didn't think it was all that great. I think it was mediocre. As I said, the grooves and rhythm weren't there. Now this one, it picks up where Holy War left off. Very standard deathcore. It's well executed, but to the point of a flaw, if that makes any sense to you. If you're coming into this expecting a deathcore album, you're going to get a deathcore album. That is what this is. It is a deathcore band. This is a very by the numbers kind of deathcore album. Now, this brings to mind that old saying, if it isn't broke, why fix it? That's kind of my big issue with Thy Art Is Murder as a whole, as I've looked at their 3 major internationally released albums. As I also mentioned in my first video, I'm not covering their first album because I can't get a hard copy of it, and I only review something if I have a hard copy of it. Of these 3 albums, their stuff is very, very middle of the road for this genre. Now here's again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're looking for deathcore and you know that's what you're into, I highly recommend all of their albums to you. I personally, though, don't find myself being drawn to Thy Art Is Murder as much as I thought I would, which it kind of bothered me because I'd heard so many good things, and there's so many of their contemporaries and bands that inspired them that I actually really like. I like Lorona Shore. I like... I'm trying to think here. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Lorona Shore, Slaughter to Prevail, Suicide Silence, Whitechapel. Just that whole stable of deathcore I like. But there's something about these guys I just can't get into, and it's a shame because there's stuff about their music I really like. Grant, I think the vocals are one of the major issues. I think his vocals on their first album were a little bit different. He had a more varied screaming style, and I think that's what I liked the most. But what is there to say about Dear Desolation itself? Let's not talk about their other albums. It's a very by-the-numbers deathcore album, I've said that already. Lots of chugging breakdowns, lots of good... The drumming's actually pretty good. Like, I found myself going, yeah, to the drumming a lot of time. I found myself enjoying what I was hearing. The guitar riffs are good, if not a bit predictable. I didn't hear any guitar riffs that made me make that same face and go, yeah. So, give and take, I guess. Again, a very middle-of-the-road album. Not a bad album. If you're looking for deathcore, listen to it. That's basically all I have to say about this musically. The lyrics seem pretty much like they continue off the anti-religion, and this seems to have basically, much like the album cover, if, like, I'm looking at these again now, like, there's a very, the anti-religion thing is still there. There's a very be careful who you trust, I guess you would say, kind of thing, like, much like the cover art, and I think that works well. The lyrics are fine. They match the vocal delivery. They match the music. It's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's middle of the road. That's my problem with this band, though. They don't do anything to really push the boundaries, but if we're being honest with ourselves for a moment, look at all the bands out there that also don't do anything to push the boundaries but are loved. AC/DC. You sit down and listen to AC/DC, you're going to hear an AC/DC album. They have not changed their sound in 30, 40 years. Is that good? I don't know. I really don't know. This band could be the AC/DC of deathcore. You know what you're getting into. It doesn't do anything for me because it's so middle of the road. Granted, I can't quite explain to you what the deathcore bands I do really, really like do that is not middle of the road. I maybe should make a video on that sometime. Tell me if you guys would like to see that, please. I think that would be an interesting video to make. But anyway, yeah, long story short, Thy Art Is Murder's band is not bad or good, in my opinion. They're very much by the numbers deathcore, and sometimes, if that's what you like, that's what you're into, and you know where to look to get that fix. Similar to a band like AC/DC or Motorhead, you know what you're getting into. There's a puppy coming to visit. Do you guys want to see the puppy? I'll show you the puppy. Say hello to everyone, Sadie. Say hi. Hi. She's very shy. But yes, this is Sadie. She also was not overly impressed with Thy Art Is Murder's first album. Or second. Or third. So, again, before I start rambling and repeating myself for the 8th time, Thy Art Is Murder is a band who's very predictable and by the numbers. And their stuff is good if you're into deathcore. I can recommend this to someone who likes the genre, but for someone who's looking for something to get them into the genre, I don't recommend these guys, or perhaps I do, because this is very standard. And if you want to hear a band that represents deathcore, look into Thy Art Is Murder. Alright, that has been your AdamSaurus music review for this week. Next week I've got a very special review where I'm going to talk about the history of my favorite genre, metalcore. You guys have a great day. Farewell. Sadie.